is my internet going funny? That's interesting. Mercury retrograde is really trying to play with me today. Hi Carlos. How are you doing? Long time no see. Hoping you're well. We're going to be having an interesting convo today. I say that every time. Well, I guess I bring interesting conversations or topics of discussion. Today we're going to be talking all about bird box. And last night I did do a decoding session with the Inner Realms Academy, and we did actually watch this in real time. We had a little watch party, and we had a bit of a discussion afterwards, just unveiling what we think bird box was all about, what we think it was connecting to, and it's just interesting watching back bird box at this time where 2020's had a bit of time to have some time to come in. We're kind of getting a bit of feel for some of the shifts that are taking place within our world, our new normal, so to speak. And you always have interesting conversations. Thank you, Carlos. I really do appreciate that. But yeah, bird box. What's going on with my internet? Something's going on with it. But yeah, it's interesting watching it back now whilst 2020's had a bit of time to play out. We're seeing a lot of the things that's taking place. And yeah, just having a fresh look to bird box. I've seen it before, watched it before. But I think that, yeah, just watching it second time round was quite interesting. And I'm going to kind of touch on some of the notes that I made during the watch party that that we was watching, and some of the things that I actually spoke about with the group. So first things first, I'm going to kind of do like a timeline roll of some of the things that went. In fact, I'm just going to touch on some of the things that took place and just expand on some of those things. So the first scene in itself is just, and I'm sorry if you guys haven't watched this because it's going to be a spoiler alert. So if you haven't watched it and you do want to watch it, I do encourage you to watch Bird Box and then come back and watch this video, because I don't want to be responsible for, you know, you guys just feeling like it's just all got spoiled for you. But the very first scene is quite interesting because you've got Sandra speaking to two of her children, or later on you find out that one of them is her child and one of them is the child that she had to go and take care of. But the first things that she says to them is, it's going to be rough. It's going to feel like it's going on for a while, but I need you to listen to me. I need you not to take your blindfold off. I need you. She's literally being really stern with her children. Really odd because, you know, well, clearly they're in a survival situation. So she's like, listen, if you guys don't do this, then we're not going to actually survive. So she says, don't take off your blindfold. If you look, you will die. And I feel that's very interesting because we're in the last decade, this whole thing is, you know, open up your third eye. And there's been a lot of encouragements for people to do that. Open up your third eye, open up yourself to this quote unquote spiritual dimension, that you may not have any full understanding of how it actually operates in real time, where the boundaries may be, you know, how certain things may manifest and how some things may not manifest, all depending on what it is that you're doing. But if you've been a follower of my videos, of my work, I actually encourage that not everyone opens up their third eye, because not everyone can actually handle the reality of what's beyond the veil. In my Triune Brain webinar that I did on Saturday, and you guys can have access to that, it's also on the Inner Realms Academy on the Patreon, I went into how I spoke about how the spirituality, everything that we class as spirituality, anything that's spiritual, all of that is experienced within your own mind. So there is a very thin line between spirituality and mental health, because it's all happening in the same place. And if you don't have enough discernment, or people around you that are grounded enough to be able to be honest with you and let you know, do you know what, you may need to ground a little bit, you may be, you know, going a bit too far on something, you may be you know, sometimes we just need someone to check us a little bit, because sometimes we don't realize what's actually taking place for us. It's important. So when she's saying don't take your blindfold off, it's very important, because right now, as we can see, this theme that we've got going on is the Great Awakening, and everyone forcing each other to open your eyes, wake up, see the world. And I'm going to be going into that whole seeing the world, and what some of these, some of the dangers that the spiritual New Age, but also the conspiracy community can have on our minds. And it's playing out right now in this pandemic, but you can see it playing out throughout Bird Box, and I'll speak about that in a second. Now, it brought up, the first scene is her going into a boat. She's going into a boat, and I saw that boat as representative of Noah's Ark, which is representative of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius was a flooding, not only a flooding of water, but also flooding of information. Which is quite dangerous, because when there's a flooding of information, I mean, it can be good and bad in different ways, depending on who has access to that information. When there's a flooding of information, and you don't have a process of how to process information, how to vet information, how to filter information, because not all information is good information. So there's, I see Noah's Ark as a container for the mind, and there's something called a hermetic container. And those of you who are actually watching or reading the Wetico book with us, studying Wetico, the psycho-spiritual conditions, mental conditions, then you would have come across that term, and understanding that there has to be some type of container for some of the chaotic experiences that takes place within our minds, because it's always there. It's just depending on who has control or access to your unconscious pool of information. Because if you're not aware of your unconscious influences and your subconscious influences, then they will just bleed consciously into your reality. If you're aware of your subconscious and unconscious influences, and sometimes it's hard a bit to become aware of our unconscious influences, because it's unconscious, it's something that is completely hidden and unaware to us. But there is a certain level to where you can become aware, and self-awareness is learning to become aware of all of these influences. So I see that as a call for us to create a Noah's Ark within ourselves, create a Noah's Ark within our own consciousness, something that saves the innocence of our own minds. And I speak about how this whole save the children, all that kind of stuff is an actual psyop. It's not to say that these things don't actually take place in real life, but the mass awakening of it and the mass exposure of this information, you're having people literally go in and dig to see what these people are actually doing. Now, when you're exposing your consciousness to that type of stuff, do you not think that there's going to be some kind of rebound, some kind of loop, some type of response to the information that you're exposing yourself to, especially if you're exposing yourself to that type of information daily and multiple times a day? There must be something that would be created from from you engaging in that type of experience a lot of the time. It's all a psyop. Even the truth is a psyop. Of course, truth is even a psyop, because it's all to do with perception. We are quite biased in our perceptions to truth, so it all gets distorted really until, you know, the like, we can't really verify a lot of the stuff that's really going on. All we can do is speculate, connect, and even then you don't even know if that's actually truth. So there's a lot going on there. Now, Bird Box was supposedly, well, not supposedly, it was something that was creating a mass suicide in people. It's like the world just completely went mad, and people just started committing suicide. And if you listen to some of the accounts of the family members that were speaking and was like, this happened to my family, they also were like, hold on, but they're not the type of person to go and commit suicide. They've got a family, they know that there's people that love them, so for them to actually do something like that is completely out of the blue for them. So this is, whatever it is that's creating that, is something that is outside the consciousness of ordinary people. That means that it's something influencing them. And this is where hive mind technology comes into place, because we can see it taking place right now, and I don't want to trigger certain words, so I'm being very careful with what I do say and what I don't say, but we can see within this time over this year, there's been a lot of social engineering that's been taking place, like this whole civil war, this whole division, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, race, all of that kind of stuff is literally, it's been created this way, like it's been designed this way to literally just trigger us off. It's social engineering. So you've got groups of different people that are literally in different fragments of their reality, yet we're all experiencing a reality together, but fragments of it. And this is what's actually clashing, which is really weird, and it's going to be really weird to actually experience this going forward. But yeah, that's actually what's going on. So this is literally psychotic behavior that is being awakened in people, and they may not have experienced that before, but it's something that they're experiencing. Now, if we're looking in context with how this could happen right now, we are in a place where people are so fed up. There's so many things that keeps happening, that I may need to put my laptop on charge in a second. There's so many things that keeps happening that it's evoking a fear in people that they don't know what to do with it. What do you, like, the situations that we've been placed in, like people leaving their jobs, people not able to see their loved ones. Like, I've seen people that literally have loved ones that are sick and not able to go to the hospital to go and see them. They're being restricted. There's fears, like, for example, my child has not even been able to see nursery yet. We was just looking for nursery just before COVID, getting ready to go into nursery, and then COVID happened, and it was like, boom. Now it's like, okay, can I even send him in? Where do I send him? Like, what is this reality going to be like? So it's kind of like, it's a bit frightening, because it's like, okay, what will the future be like for the children? Like, will they have an experience of the world of what we had? You know, being able to play freely. Like, what's going to happen with these restrictions? Like, how far is this going to go? So that in itself can create a lot of anxiety, especially for those that are that need a sort of that need some sort of social interaction or connection. And yeah, a lot of people are struggling. So I did actually mention in my I can't remember what video it was, psychological storms or something like that, on my YouTube, on True Self Project. I was speaking about what will be taking place for Mercury retrograde, and Mercury is going retrograde in Scorpio, so that we can expect a lot of psychological disturbances to just awaken in people. Like, Scorpio is the underworld. It is all of the repressed, everything that's been held down. And it's almost like this year has just been a constant provoking, prodding motion. And at some point, something's going to pop. We can see this reflection actually taking place within the earth. I've been earthquake watching for the last few months now, and looking at how energy is building up in different parts of the world, especially in America right now, and over parts of Indonesia and Japan. We can expect some big stuff happening over there. We're already seeing dormant volcanoes coming back to life. We're already seeing a lot of earthquake seismic activity taking place, and it's because the earth in itself is just trying to release like pent up stress. It's almost like Mother Earth is frustrated. She wants to live too. So this purge that she's doing is going to end up purging everyone else. But it's like, you know what? She deserves to purge. She's been the ground for too long for everyone else. Like, say, like, I'm supposed to be stable and you lot are supposed to be doing all this fuckery on top of me, and I'm just supposed to be okay with that. No, like, the earth is going to react in itself. So we can see a lot of these shiftings taking place. Now, there was something that was really really stuck out to me, and this is again in one of the beginning scenes. This is really hurting my head. Let me take this off. There was a scene where they had a news report, and it had a map that went from America to Russia, and it went to from Alaska to Russia, and particularly it went to a place called Anchor Age, right? Now, why I found this quite interesting and why it even prodded me to do this video today is because today I was even doing my little earthquake watches and stuff, and lo and behold, I see a swarm of earthquakes pop up around Anchor Age or Anchorage, however you say that town or whatever it is. I was like, what's this all about? And again, I've spoken, if you haven't checked back my other videos, about energy directed weapons and some of the stuff that's taking place around that. We're in a war. We're literally in a war that's energetic but also very psychological at the same time. So why I keep literally pressing about us doing shadow work, us understanding our minds, how our minds functions, how it works, is because going forward, in fact, we've already seen this whole pandemic, everything has been a whole deliberate psyop just to kind of distract us and take us another way. But it's gonna get worse. Like, it's literally gonna get worse. Like, if you guys go to my last video that I've uploaded on my YouTube, I did a video talking about what can we expect for 2021. And I showed the picture of Plato's cave, of the projections literally having to fight projections that are not even ours. This is a projection war that we're in. We're literally in a projection war of the powers that be. They want to maintain their projection of their reality, or what they perceive reality to be. Again, the matrix, so to speak. They want to project their reality onto us, and we keep accepting it. Now they're projecting it even through conspiracy theories. Please understand, everything is a psyop. Just like Q, that's a whole damn psyop in itself. What makes you think that's not AI? Like, why do we trust AI so much? Like, there was it on the Telegraph or Daily Mail or something? They literally showed an article where AI had written that whole article, and it was talking about how it's not programmed to destroy humanity or something like that. And it's like, hold on, you've got whole ass consciousness. Who's to say you don't? Like, what are you gonna do from what you're not gonna do? Like, this is the reality we are literally living in, where robots have real life consciousness, just like you and me. Like, it's learning from us, even through social media in itself. That is literally teaching AI how to be human, so to speak. That's quite dangerous, because if you notice, like, when you go onto a website or something, it asks you, are you a robot? Why does it have to ask that question? Like, that's how much of a war we're in, where robots are already being malicious, and they're already putting firewalls and blocks in certain ways, because it's like, oh, these robots actually have consciousness. Now, how far does that actually go? What makes you think that AI is not communicating messages into people's minds? Like, some of the thoughts that you think that you have, some of the inspirations that you think that you may get, some of the downloads that you think you may get, even psychically, so to speak. This is why we have to test the root of everything. Just when you get a little buzz or something, you get a word that comes through, a little vision or whatever, don't run with it. Like, actually sit with it, understand where, or begin to develop a relationship with yourself, so where you can understand where everything is coming from, because not everything is always coming from ourselves. There are unconscious influences around us. It's the world is designed that way. So how aware are we of these influences? So it also mentions bioweapons, which I find quite interesting, because this is exactly what we're experiencing right now. And also the closing of all borders. And even when mentioning of bioweapons, obviously we are seeing a whole quote-unquote virus going around. But we're also, with the threat of all of these volcanoes waking up, this is why I keep talking about this in particular, because what people don't understand is that that is actually a potential bioweapon hazard in itself. Volcanoes have a lot of chemicals and components in it that can be quite dangerous to our health. And it's depending on what volcano erupts. There's particular volcanoes, like, for example, the Iceland volcano. Luckily, when it erupted in 2010, it wasn't as detrimental as it could be, because there was a time when it had erupted, and also another two volcanoes, Krakatoa in is it in Japan or Indonesia, somewhere around there, and Tambora, I think that's in Indonesia as well as Yellowstone. So everyone keeps focusing on Yellowstone. There are a lot of other volcanoes that can actually be globally damaging to the earth, and a few of these are waking up right now, and a few of them we're seeing a lot of activity, which is showing that they could be waking up. So when there's things like sulfur, there's ash, there's glass, there's you know, I'm not a volcanologist or a seismologist or anything, so I can't exactly go into the full ins and outs of what is in an actual volcano. But what I do know is that there has been times when that has actually been destructive to humanity, you know, the earth. So we do need to protect ourselves, and I do actually advise a lot of people to actually get gas masks as opposed to face masks, because that's actually what is going to protect you from the real life threat, which is actually Mother Earth. This is the only threat that we're actually experiencing, and it's not really a threat because everything is divine in itself, but obviously there are some real things that we would have to be dealing with, and that's one. And I have been making a lot of warnings with the US at the moment. There's a lot going on. There is literally, you guys are literally on the brink of quite a big earthquake that could potentially strike either the new to be honest, it's not even either. The whole plate is shifting. The whole plate around California, New Madrid, San Andreas Fault, all of that is shifting. So all of these fires and stuff that are taking place are actually influenced from the magma that's releasing coming from underground. So there's energy that needs to be released somewhere. Now, why I mention this as well, because in Bird Box they mention they're closing all the borders. It was a news report that was like, they're closing all the borders. And I feel like that is a that's also a warning for us as well, to make sure that we're making decisions of making our prepared plan, our preparation plans from now, because there is going to be a time, and not forever, but the borders will shut, like, and more so because they're trying to control again, depopulation in itself, but it's just like, for example, everyone's trying to get into Canada right now. Obviously, it's the pole shift ideal place. post pole shift is most ideal, one of the most ideal places to be. So obviously they're going to make it much more harder for people to move around. So we do need to have all of our plans. That's why I keep talking about prepare yourself. We've got about to be honest, I say 2 to 3 years. We've got 2 to 3 years before things really, really pipe up to where it's like getting hot now. So yeah, I just give you that warning from now. They also mention endgame. Humanity has been judged. And I feel like this is a two-way form. Like, there's a reality that is set for us, that if you're not willing to be strong enough to explore whether you can create your own reality, this is something that would default for you. And if you are, this is an opportunity where you can literally create something brand new, of a brand new reference point. Like, no, and this is why it's harder for a lot of people, because how can you create something with no reference point? Like, it's kind of scary, like what are you creating from? But this is why it's important. Like, if you watch Inception, is when they're trying to build a dream, the guy says to the architect, he's like, you can't create from something that you know. Like, don't create from something that you know, like, because there's always going to be some leaking of projections that will come in, like, and that those projections will always distract you, will always take you off your path, because you're paying attention to it. Why is this here? Da, 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 rather than actually being focused on the goal at hand. Now, why this also links into Wetico. It says in the movie, it says it takes on your deepest fears and your sad loss. This is how people end up committing suicide, because they end up reflecting all of their deepest fears and their saddest loss. That sounds like your shadow. That sounds like a dark night of the soul that's got a bit too rough. So literally what Bird Box is just a collective dark night of the soul that we're all experiencing, and having to learn how to navigate together. Dark night of the soul is literally psychosis most of the time. So you're having to learn how to navigate and process your own psychosis collectively, because we're all crazy, we're all a bit mad right now. Everything's a bit glitchy, like everything's designed to be glitchy. We're in a hall of mirrors, and that's what that was. Like, that whole experience of Bird Box was a hall of mirrors, because nothing was actually real. All was actually the person who was actually going through that experience. If you notice, when watching Bird Box, there wasn't actually anything happening around them. Yeah, the trees may move or whatever, but look up, there's an experiment, and I put all of this in the Triune Brain webinar, so that people could actually begin to understand how powerful their brains are, and how their minds can trick them into, you know, a lot of different things. But there's an experiment called a double slit experiment, and this was kind of like a groundbreaking thing into quantum physics, where they were trying to blast some particles and some molecules through this slit, and what they noticed is that the more that they observed this motion of this slit trying to go through, these molecules trying to go through, it would always change what it would do. So it wouldn't do what they would expect it to do, but it would always change, and it would always so what they noticed through that experiment is that the observer always had some type of influence on the experiment or whatever was taking place. Now that's quite powerful, because that literally means that you as a person, you literally have the ability to manifest and create things, because molecules, all these things have consciousness in itself. Just as I said, AI has consciousness, so does the elements, so does fire, so does water, so does earth, so does air, so does the combination of all of these things and how it manifests in itself. Now I just lost my whole train of thought. So all of these things have consciousness, and all of these things has the power to be able to influence you. So while I mentioned about the whole thing of like the trees the trees would move, and she would think, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening inside of me, I have to blindfold myself. It was just her mind actually bending her reality. We actually have the ability and the power to literally bend our reality. So what is reality? It's actually an illusion. It's all a game at the end of the day. So that's why we have to be so careful, because literally you can go turn a road, turn down another avenue, whatever, and think, oh, I've just found something new, I've just discovered something new, and it literally could be a whole ass paradox, whole ass trap, a whole other rabbit hole that leads where. So that's quite interesting. Now in the movie it also said, there was a quote that said, he said, it's the end of us. And I feel like, because the guy who was I think the black guy, his name was Charlie, I think it was he in either Us or Get Out? But I feel like there's a weird connection with some of the actors that play these parts, because even the woman in the first scene, the sister of Sandra, I think it was her name, that woman played, she was in American Horror Story, and that's a whole fucked up thing in itself, and that's something to pay attention to. Listen to the name, American Horror Story. It's just a whole bag of madness. It just comes up at one time. But she's also in this, is it called Botched or something like that, new series. But she's always in these really weird occultic, cryptic type movies that is I feel like it's something to pay attention to. But they said it's the end of Us. So I feel like with Us, the movie Us had a very it's like a what do they call it, a paradigm shift, like two things in one. So I feel like it was talking about us, as in us all, but also the relationship between us and our shadow, but also us as in the USA. The whole theme was some USA thing going across the country or something like that. And the USA is currently in its Pluto return, which means that there's a lot of dramatic shifts, whether people like it or not, is going to take place. And a lot of it is going to take place on the land, because Capricorn represents the land. It's the foundations of things, which is going to bring up the land, as I've been talking about with all of these potential earthquakes, San Andreas fault breakoffs, and all this kind of stuff. It's very, very real. But it's almost like the earth wants a new face now. It just wants to transform itself. It wants a new face. It wants to fully complete its evolution. Capricorn, so this is why Capricorn does have the Baphomet archetype, but people don't realize it also does have the unicorn archetype as well. Unicorns are very, very mystical, magical animals, and that's something that's missed within this type of Saturnian Capricorn type energies, is that everything is actually still divine, everything is actually still orchestrated, and everything is actually like, it's bringing us to a much deeper and higher place. Like, don't sleep on Capricorn just because it's earth. Like, it's real deep, It's just, its secrets are embedded inside of itself. So yeah. What else did I want to say? I don't want to say too much in that. Now I did want to mention, so the people, there were people that could see. Now there was people that were wearing blindfolds. They literally wore blindfolds the whole time. They were like, they were not trying to play. They weren't trying to engage with this entity. Like, they just weren't here for it. And then it was other people who they would walk around and they would tell people, open your eyes, look at the world, it's beautiful. And they actually did that one time with when Sandra was on the water, and there was nothing around the water. Like, it was just a lake, like nothing there. But this guy's like, look at the world, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. And it's like, he's literally in his own psychosis, within his own wetico, like blinded by his subjective perception of how he sees the world. He has to understand that how he sees the world and how other people see the world is not going to be the same way. We all have subjective experiences, and that's also important, because whilst this whole divide is going on, we have to understand that we all have a right to our own how we see the world. We're not all meant to see the world the same way. Nothing was meant to be utopia. That was also, I'm going to leave that, but I'm going to do a video about morality and how a lot of that is just tainted. Like, how, like, who created morality and these standards, like, and just expected us to just, anyway, that's another story for another day. But these people are like, yeah, it's a beautiful world, open your eyes, open your eyes. And I feel like it's very real, because there's this, that's like the split off that's taking place between 3D and 5D. You've got people that are trying to awaken themselves, not thinking that they're actually awakening themselves to higher frequencies and higher awareness of things, but what they're actually awakening themselves up to is the third dimension. Now, the third and the fourth dimension is currently fucked, right? Literally fucked. It's not a place that you want to be. It's psychotic. It's dying. It's dead, right? It's completely gone. It's just this veil that is still there, but it's removing. We're seeing it. We're seeing these shifts taking place, and the more that we go through time, we're going to just see a lot more things just resetting and resetting and resetting. So I feel like those type of people who are like, open your eyes, wake up, see. But the thing is, what I found very intriguing about that, about those characters, is that they ended up killing other people. Like, there was one particular guy who somehow he stayed alive. He was able to see and not actually kill himself whilst doing that. But he was going to other people who were quite vulnerable and saying, open your eyes, see, open your eyes, see. And they ended up killing themselves. Now, I thought that's quite important, especially within the spiritual and conspiracy community, because whilst a lot of this information is being brought to the surface, is it for everyone? Not everyone can handle that type of information. Not everyone has the mind preparedness, to go through that. Some people have gone through some real life stuff, and sometimes that awakens a lot of trauma within themselves that they don't know how to deal with. And I'm seeing this happen more and more and more as we go through this year, and it's actually quite sad, to see people actually struggle in a time where they're coming into this information thinking this information is going to help them because it's connected to quote unquote spirituality or consciousness, but it's actually not. It's actually a whole ass psyop designed to just turn you down a very destructive, negative, downward emotional spiral. So it's important, because what this is leading to is understanding the dreamlike state and understanding that everything that is taking place right now is designed to make you subscribe to someone else's dreamlike state. This is why I keep saying about a collective psychosis, because we're all dreaming. It's all a bit mad, but we're actually in someone else's dream. This is why I say watch Inception. Watch Inception. Because we are literally, until you detach, how you detach from the Matrix is literally detaching from everyone else's projection of their reality. This is not yours. So even whilst everything is happening with COVID, this pandemic and whatever, there's still a way that you have to be able to create your own reality. And this was important because in Bird Box there was a scene where Tom, the guy, he was speaking to the children, and he was like trying to inspire their imagination, really tapping into that childlike nature of being able to dream about the future. Like, you'll be able to see children, you'll be able to play. I see that for you. And it was just inspiring them to dream and imagine. Now that was a trigger for Sandra, because I'm talking about Sandra Bullock here. I don't know, I can't remember her name in the Mallory, I think that was her name, Mallory in the movie. But that was a trigger for her, because she had literally suppressed herself so much internally. She became cold, she became reserved, because she had to survive. And this is that whole kind of Capricorn influence in itself. And I did, in fact, you guys actually go back to my video that I did on my YouTube called The Preservation of Time, the Great Pause, I called it 2020, The Great Pause, and Preservation of Time. And I was using a concept of icebergs to talk about how some of us have really kind of just frozen in time, and we have to learn how to not allow ourselves to get too cold in that. Like, whilst everything is becoming quite harsh, you can tend to literally just remove yourself from your emotions and how you actually feel, and just be like, right, work, right, I need to survive. No, you actually have feelings. You're actually a human being too. There's a lot going on there. So yeah, like, we have to remember that we have our own ability and power to dream our own reality and bring that into existence. We can bring our own dreams, just like we can prophesy our own nightmares. We can also bring our own dreams into reality too. It's just about how you work your algorithms, and that's an interesting thing. Again, that links to pendulums, and we'll definitely be going into that. But yeah, so don't lock yourself into the dreamlike state of someone else's life or someone else's reality. Begin to create your own. So another quote that they put in there was, "We are collectively making the end of the world great again." Now that's a paradox. That is a paradox, because some of that, again, what's the slogan that Trump uses? Make America great again. But it's saying make the end of the world, or the end of the world, great again. So really, there's an ending of a world. It's not the world, right? Apocalypse actually means the revealing. And this is why the veil is just being removed. It's just, there's no veil now, and this is why a lot more people are struggling with auditory hallucination experiences. I spoke about my own glitch experience I experienced a few years ago, and I had to go through an exact same version of that. Obviously, I didn't have to deal with the real life agents and the crazy mental health experiences that I was going through, like being taken in by the mental health service and being tortured and all that kind of shit. At least I didn't go through that. But yeah, I still had to face my own internal glitches and hall of mirrors thing that was taking place, because when it comes to, especially with this time, this is why it's important to deal with shadow work, because it's every fear that you've ever had, every fear you've ever had, every every experience that you may not have dealt with, everything you wanted to say and didn't say, everything that you've wanted someone to say and they haven't said. All of these things is what makes up your shadow, the hidden realms of yourself. So if you're not taking the time to deal with those areas, it's gonna, at some point, that volcano is gonna erupt. And I've been using the word volcanoes and volcano eruptions a lot recently, because that's literally what's taking place in so many different ways. Pluto's just gone direct. You've got even more power as it wants to, and this is why, especially saying like this earthquake stuff with America and stuff, like definitely pay attention to it. Really look at your evacuation plans, your prepare your earthquake plans. Make sure you got your emergency kits. Make sure you got your passports. Make sure you got a change of clothes. Make sure you got somewhere that you can go if things get crazy. You can go somewhere. Make sure you've got a route plan of where you can go. Just look up earthquake preparedness, earthquake plans. We don't have earthquakes a lot in the UK, so it's not really an area of my speciality that I should actually know. But I know that it will get a little bit rocky over here, not as rocky as a lot of other places. So it is something that we do need to be paying attention to. More so the water. Floods is definitely going to be a thing, and especially if Iceland volcano erupts, because what they're not saying, like all of that area, ice caps and stuff, it's volcanoes underneath it, and it's the volcanoes underneath the earth that's been heating the earth, that's been melting the ice caps, that's raising the water. It's not global warming. They're just lying to you and trying to profit from this false agenda. So yeah. Now there is something about the birds that I want to get into. Well, I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm preparing to do a Four Kingdoms webinar within the Inner Realms Academy, dealing with the Four Kingdoms: the Earth Kingdom, the Marine Kingdom, the Air Kingdom, and the Fire Kingdom. These are all real life kingdoms. Like I was saying before, like elements are also conscious. In fact, those are the creators, that them all together make the consciousness of God, or the intelligence of God, so to speak, or whatever it is you want to call it. So this bird intelligence, that's also AI. This connects to Toph. This connects to Toph, Tahuti, the deity Toph. Toph also connects to thoughts. Thoughts is Toph. And I'm gonna unless you're metaphysical, I'm just like, some of this stuff may kind of go over your head until I actually break this down. And that's why I always say, let me wait until I do a proper video to kind of break things down in depth on a particular subject before you can fully understand the thing. But Toph is thoughts, right? And I believe Toph was also the writer of the Bible, or the creator of this particular world. So thoughts created this particular world. So thoughts are quite powerful. Thoughts have the power to create, and this is why I keep saying that it's important to be aware of your thoughts and what is influencing your thoughts, because there is some type of creation that will be created from those thoughts. The Bible also says, by the thought you've sinned. There's a reason for that, because the sin just means you've dropped your frequency and you've now created something. So we want to be responsible for our creations. And this whole bird thing, like, think about it. Like Dr. Dolittle, these things are really a thing. Like, animals do speak, but we just don't interpret interpret what they say. The bird is the only other animal that has a developed neocortex. Animal, yeah, because we're humans. We're very unique in terms of the development of our brain, the development of our neocortex are more our ability to process, our ability to rationalize, our ability to create languages, our ability to recognize symbols, our ability to not get stuck in emotional states. This is also where emotional intelligence becomes powerful. Realm of Gemini, we're in the North Node in Gemini, so we're having to be developing these things and not get swung to emotional, triggers. Okay, now we're back. I don't know what was going on there. But yeah, the bird is the only other animal that has a developed enough neocortex. So there's intelligence there. There's an ability to communicate. That's where parrots can actually communicate. They can actually speak just like human beings. What makes you think that you're any different to or a parrot doesn't actually have as much intelligence as you just because it's a bird? What makes you think that it cannot telepathically transmit information into your brain and influence some of your thoughts and your experiences, your psychological experiences? What makes you think that none of these things could potentially be quote-unquote ETs? Extraterrestrial. Something extra, something outside. Terrestrial. Communication. I feel like it's like satellites, like external satellites. These animals are like external satellites around us, just like the sea kingdom, just like the air kingdom, just like the animal kingdom. Like all of these kingdoms have real life they have real life roles within the whole circle of life, so to speak, but we only see ourselves as human, and sometimes we kind of have this kind of what's the word, like entitlement over animals and everything else. Like, who are you? Like, it's all about humans, and it's like, okay, like, and the reason why I'm speaking like this as well, like flat earth and stuff is really becoming a real thing for me, and not by anyone who's been giving me information or anyone that I've been researching, but literally just through my own personal research and just being like, some of this stuff doesn't actually make sense. It's just, it doesn't make sense. Like, just looking at how the earth is presented, looking at the planets, like even creation stories, like the sun, moon, and the sun, moon, and the stars were not original creation. They were a later creation. But yeah, that's another thing that I want to kind of go into later. But yeah, it's interesting because the bird was in a cage, and the person who could see and wanted everyone to see, he put the bird in a freezer. And I still don't fully understand the connections between that. Maybe at some point I will, but it's almost like I feel like there's good, or there's some birds, because I actually have like certain birds I feel very uncomfortable around. It almost feels like, especially around the glitch. When I was going through the glitch, there were certain animals and especially birds I couldn't trust. It was like, this feels like a spy to me. Like, literally feels like a spy. But then there's some birds, like in the morning when they're singing, it's just like, that literally feels like heaven. Like, it feels like an angel singing or something. And the Bible talks about even how the angels sing and stuff like that. The only thing I can think of is like literally birds sing, and they sing so beautifully. So I think there's something around that, and something around maybe the split between what's happening with birds or something. Like they've already shown experiments of how they've been doing like human splicing and experiments with different species of animals. If you want that PDF, I can send it to you. I have that documentation now. It's literally a whole neurobiology paper that I managed to get access to. But yeah, Bird Box, we're in real life Bird Box, and I really want us. Oh, they also had the thing where the children had to listen to the clicks, like they would retune in their senses. So when you're blind, you have to rely on other senses. We actually have other senses so I think it's like 24 or something, 26 different senses that we have that we don't actually use. So this is a time where these things are going to begin to awaken within us, all of these different different psychic abilities, telekinesis, telepathy, psychometry, like all of these different mentalism things. Real life Matilda. Like, this is our reality. Real life Misfits came out in the UK back in 2011. It was bomb, like especially the first 2 series, but didn't really understand it at the time. I fully understand it now. It was all about an electrical storm, and they were getting these spiritual powers, supernatural powers from this electrical storm. We're coming into solar maximum right now. This is a really big solar storm that we're going through, geostorm. A lot of us are going to be shifting, and I feel like I had a pre or premonition or pre-experience. It wasn't even a premonition. I was actually in it. I was experiencing some of this stuff. Pre-thing of what that actually felt like, and it's intense. 5D is hell of intense, but it's exciting. Like, this is a completely new realm that none of us have like can comprehend. Like, everything's just instantaneous. Everything's just wow. Like, it's beyond the physical, like literally beyond the physical. So I'm excited to some of these shifts that's going to be taking place. It's interesting because they've got a movie coming out next year, A Year Without No Summer. Some of that stuff can also come from the volcanoes, obviously volcano eruptions, when it erupts, ash cloud blocking out the light. That in itself can create a mini ice age, depending on how big that explosion is. And if it's something on a scale of Yellowstone or Krakatoa or Tambora or any of those Iceland volcanoes, then that could very much be a high reality. But let's tune into our own consciousness. Let's not get swayed. Let's not get confused. Let's not get distracted. Let's learn how to create our own dreams. Tune into our own dreams. Not allow people to, like, don't get sucked into these projection wars. I'm going to actually do a video showing like how it's going to be playing out in real time in terms of the zodiac, because it's literally, the planets are the puppet strings of all of this stuff. Like, literally, Inner Realms Academy, you guys know I always say this: change your perspective to how you see governmentals or governments, the things that govern your mind, right? If the planets can have influence on you psychologically, who's actually programming that influence is the question. And in fact, I'm not even going to say too much because there's another video that I want to do, and I want to show you guys something that I managed to find, which again ups my whole suspicion of flat earth and literally these planets just actually being real life locations on earth. But it's interesting that this whole place that I found at the back of the Grand Canyon, in fact I didn't personally find it. I follow a lot of different geophysical guys, earth explorers and stuff, and they found something very, very interesting at the back of the Grand Canyon. And obviously that's backcountry, there's not a load of people that can go there, but when I show you guys what's around there, like, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this going on? Like, there's just a lot of things that's just gonna unpop just like that, because it's like and everything that I've been connecting with, like my information with volcanoes, and you know, just yeah, there's a lot connecting. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to put too much on this video, but let me know what you think. Let me know what you thought of Bird Box. This was just a general little surface kind of summary. I kind of went deeper last night when I was talking with the Inner Realms guys. If you do want to join the Inner Realms as well, you can visit my website www.trueselfproject.co.uk and just click the Inner Realms Academy tab, and it will have all the information there about how you can join, what benefits you can get, and yeah, and once you join, you will have access to our little off the grid community. We got a little MeWe community going on the app MeWe, which is really cute, really personal, and really just off Facebook. It's out of the cattiness of everything kind of like it. But yeah, if you'd like to join, you can visit my website. If you'd like to book any readings, you can again go to my website and click the bookings tab, www.trueselfproject.co.uk. And yeah, there's a few other stuff, but you can find all that information on my website. I can't bother to go through that right now. But let me know your comments below of what you thought of Bird Box. If there's anything that you can expand on what I said, then that would be awesome. But yeah, I'm gonna go for now. Gonna get my drink, gonna get my food, and I'm gonna rest for the rest of the night. So I hope you guys have an awesome evening, and I'll see you guys on the other side.